filter in. I'm just going to do a really quick intro right here, and we're going to just dive right in. So I have David Morrell and Nathan Singh from Greater Property Group, and they've got some exciting slides to show you, and then we're going to dive into a conversation right after. So I'll pass this off to you, and here we go.
Okay, so this is going to be a little bit different from the other presentations because we're talking about real estate. So we're going to change the energy a little bit because real estate is super fun. I'm sure you'd agree.
Yes.
Okay, real estate is super fun. Kind of a different look at this whole thing in relation to who we are and what we do. We've got a PowerPoint we want to get through relatively fast. When we came in yesterday, there was a panel going on the stage here, and we found that incredibly interesting. So the PowerPoint we'll try and fly through real quick, and we'll give you some context about who we are and why we're here, actually. But you can't understand why we're here or what we're talking about cryptocurrency in relation to real estate unless you understand who we are. So that's us. We're the Greater Property Group. We're we'll get into our company bio here real quick. This is our company bio. We're a national residential real estate brand known for unique selling propositions, exceptional services, well-edited marketing and branding. You can call us dissatisfied and discontented with the status quo. So what we do is we take a look at what the industry is doing as a whole, and then we go way over here. So that's why we're here today. We are a brokerage, an Alberta brokerage, both in Calgary and Edmonton. We're about 6 months old. We used to belong to a big box brand real estate company. Just to give you a little bit of background about that is real estate, as we know, is very regulated. Do you mind if I explore the space a little bit?
Yes.
Okay. So real estate's regulated, right, in Alberta and in Canada. So you have to operate within those rules, and those rules state that any offers or unique selling propositions you make in relation to the public have to, right, Chris, have to be brokerage-wide offers, right? So an individual agent cannot offer something that the brokerage does not. So we took matters into our own hands, became an independent brokerage, and now we're able to make these unique selling propositions that we're very proud of. So that's what we've been able to do. I'm just going to fly through these a little bit just to give you some context. We believe this. We believe that money moves to difference, not similarity. Would you agree with that? Right? Money moves to difference, not similarity. Right? It'd be different, people will pay attention. So that's kind of what we're doing when it comes to real estate, especially residential real estate. Nothing super fancy, this is residential real estate. Your mom and dad's house, your friend's house, right? That's what we do. Just to give you some context about our unique selling propositions, our brand placements, our one-day listing guarantee. You know, people are afraid of being locked into a long contract. We have a one-day listing guarantee. The way that we actually advertise our unique selling propositions has caused a lot of noise, I guess you'd say. A lot of people pay attention to our branding and how we do it. The 1-2 free campaign, which we can get into, just some more branding placements that the kids like, you know, the kids like. But in all honesty, you know, people have taken note. They want to talk to us about what we're doing. It's a little bit different, probably from what you're used to, right? Your mom and dad's real estate brokerage, another branding placement. This is our Run GPG campaign. This is quite popular, so anybody born in the 70s or 80s? Yeah. Little Run DMC, right? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so if you'd like a t-shirt, let us know. We'll get you a Run GPG t-shirt. Again, so coming back to our unique selling propositions, here's one. We'll see if this works. This is the type of advertising, again, just keep in mind, we'll get to the crypto stuff in a minute here, but this just gives you context for who we are and what we do. And hopefully this goes okay. You probably haven't seen a lot of that. We offer that. Oh, we did it. Our buyers are flyers. It's working now. It's working. Our buyers are flyers, right? This was a campaign we ran that said if you bought with us in the summer, we'd give you a $750 WestJet voucher. These are unique selling propositions, right? Looks good. I'm proud of that. Right? Fantastic, guys. What's this one here? Oh yeah, then this was a campaign we ran in Edmonton. I don't know if you like Marvel comics. These are all sold. Past year in Edmonton. Right? So again, little disruptive, a little weird. Then we got really controversial. We just presented in a conference in Lake Tahoe. Nathan and myself just presented in Lake Tahoe not too long ago. This caused a little bit of a stir. We don't care whether you support Trump or not. It was just, it got people talking, and yes, we did transactions off of this campaign. In fact, we even put it on our baseball jerseys. Yeah, so make real estate great again. We believed in that. We believed in making real estate great again through our unique selling propositions. This caused a stir, I'm telling you, man. You know, when you're wearing something that says make real estate great again, it gets a little bit of a laugh, but it does its job, right? So again, disruptive. And then we got incredibly disruptive. We opened our speaking engagement in Lake Tahoe recently with this. I'll just let this one play out. It speaks for itself.
Well, Frankish? Okay. Come on, guys. Okay. Do you want to play rough? Say hello to my little friend!
Yeah, needless to say, this caused a little bit of a stir. We were with, you know, the top 1% of the industry in North America, and then they all wanted to talk to us after this. Right? So, but you know, as mentioned, it does its job. But we also get serious too. This is incredibly important. I want to point this out. We're one of only. How many have heard of Zillow? So you know what Zillow is?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's number one real estate platform in the United States right now. It's $1 billion company. That's where people go. They don't go to the MLS. They go to Zillow.com. They zestimate the value of their house, and then they contact a real estate company or a real estate agent after that. Okay. About a year or two ago, we heard rumblings that they may be coming to Canada. Well, it's here. They're coming to Canada. We had talked to them, what was it, maybe last 3 weeks? 3 weeks. Went through a series of meetings with them. We're one of only 7 brokerages in Canada that is officially partnered with Zillow. One of only 7 in Canada. As far as I know, we're the only one in Alberta, as far as I know. We're small. We provide boutique service, right? We provide tremendous value to our clients, and they got the vision of what we were doing. So we're one of only 7 brokerages in Canada that have officially partnered with Zillow. So you'll see us on there if you want to, you know, added exposure to your listing, right? If you want to look for properties that are sometimes not available on the traditional MLS, want to go to Zillow, give us a call. This was big for us. You know, this is serious. You know, ad disruption aside, partnering with Zillow was a big deal. That ended up everywhere in that press release, which was really interesting. I'll just give you the quote here. As a growing brokerage, a partnership with Zillow was a no-brainer for us. It gives us another platform to bring our offers and incentives to our clients. The partnership fits nicely with our vision and concept of the future of real estate in Canada and will benefit our agents and, most importantly, our clients in the coming years. And we believe that too, right? So, this is a very big partnership for us, right? And for our clients as well. So it's a big deal. The big picture, I'm not gonna, you know, I'm kind of embarrassed this slide is in here. We use this, it's describing what cryptocurrency is good for. So, you know, you guys have been talking about that for 2 days. But we use this as kind of a flyover for people that want to understand how it relates to them in everyday life, okay? That's what it does, so I'm not going to bore you with that. The result of cryptocurrency, using it as the world economy starts to do this, and people are a little bit, you know, it's on shaky ground. I guess you could say the world economy is tepid at best. You know, we see what's happening, right? There's a lot of volatility. But decentralized technologies will cause an enormous shift in the way assets are managed in the future, both at the commercial and retail level. Tokenization of assets will create borderless, trustless, 24/7 markets with global liquidity, which we'll talk about in 1 second here. Smart contracts will replace many of the functions of traditional asset exchange markets, whether that be investment brokers, real estate brokers, agents, lawyers, or advisors. So as we know, you know, decentralization, all this type of stuff is going to change every industry related to real estate. How we look at it has to change, right? You have to zoom out, take a look at where things are going, and try and get ahead of it. And that's what we're doing. That's why we're here. Right, let's talk about how it relates specifically to real estate. I'll just read the slide real quick. Specifically as it relates to real estate assets, these technologies will eventually fill in the existing information and trust gap that requires agents, lawyers, inspectors, etc. to close. In the future, all relevant title and property information will be contained within an open source and decentralized smart contract platform, and closing a transaction will be as simple as a series of automated if and then functions, right? So everything as we know it will go away when it comes to real estate. Eventually you might not even need a real estate agent, right? Laws and regulations say that you need one, right? You need somebody to negotiate the deal and broker the deal. But if we can sell your home fast for top dollar with no hassle, we're going to do that, and as it relates to cryptocurrency, if we can do it in that form, we're going to do it. So this community is really interesting because, getting feedback from people on what's, I went to one of Jan's workshops there and I met a few people that were in the industry itself, and they talked about different regulations and laws and hoops you've got to jump through when it comes to this stuff. So slowly but surely this is happening. We just want to be there when it does happen, right? Blockchain's role in the future of real estate. There's two key points here. The technological impact of blockchain on the industry, and crypto transactions is a new category of real estate transaction with unique challenges, right? Technological impact of blockchain on the industry. So there's, as you know, we can explore this with you. As you know, real estate's changed a lot in the last few years, right? It's changed a lot, especially in the last year. There's two things that are very significant when it comes to the change in the way real estate is handled, the way properties are transacted. Two things. One is technology, right? The advancement in technology. And the second thing is data. Data. So that's Zillow's big added bonus, right? They have all the data, right? And you're giving it all up, right? You only no longer need to call an agent, find out what our neighbor's home sold for, right? It's all out there. And so how does that benefit you? Well, we're going to talk about that on the panel. How is blockchain technology useful in the context of real estate currently? Well, it can efficiently perform functions of many of the middlemen involved in an average real estate transaction currently, and will most likely eventually enable a fully peer-to-peer real estate market. Eventually, right? Eventually. So again, we just want to be the ones that are there when it happens. Again, that slide talks about data. Sorry to bore you with these slides, but we'll get there. I want to get to the panel. This is interesting. This is a very key point here. It can be used to tokenize ownership of an asset. Can be equated to owning stock in a specific building or crowdfunding a real estate development. Will be an enormous application of blockchain, digitizing ownership of all asset classes. So how many have heard about the tokenization of real estate or fractional ownership? How many have heard about that? Yeah, this is really interesting stuff. We first heard the concept, it was about a year ago, okay? About a year ago we first heard the concept of it, and there wasn't a lot of info on it, but now this stuff is starting to come out where we're finding about tokenized real estate or fractional ownership. The way Craig put it, you don't have mic. If I was in my underwear on a Saturday morning and I wanted to buy $500 worth of a brownstone in New York City, we could do it within 5 minutes. That's the concept behind it, right? Does that make sense? Right, the concept? So we've been in talks with a company named Hip Property in the UK. Oh, here we go. Okay, if this works, it'd be fantastic. So I want you guys to pay attention to this video. They're going through the first few transactions, I believe, in the UK. Once they've figured out all the laws and regulations there, they've been talking to us about Canada. So let's play this video.
HIP is a next-generation property finance platform, enabling a new level of financial freedom for buyers, owners, and investors. HIP delivers solutions that allow property owners and investors to leverage the liquidity currently locked up in real estate. HIP rethinks the way that real estate assets are bought, sold, collateralized, and interacted with. HIP will make property wealth more accessible by turning real estate equity and debt into tradable assets. For this, HIP has a unique FCA license to operate within the UK. We have coined the phrase property banking, meaning that if you own a building, you can create a property bank account with HIP. This allows you to access the equity as well as the debt in your building, creating financial freedom, as users are able to fractionally sell their equity or fractionally increase their debt. For owners, this means you simply log on and instruct the platform to sell 10% of your building, releasing equity, or fractionally increase your debt. Your request is then made live on our trading exchange and becomes a commodity, allowing investors to buy those fractions and participate in the economic benefits of your assets, debt, and equity. Investors are given the opportunity to participate in portfolio or product acquisitions, as opposed to investing in single properties, giving them the ability to invest regionally or on a preferential basis. offering flexibility to the investor and spreading risk. This is known as uncorrelated investment. How big is the opportunity? It's enormous. The global real estate market is valued at $228 trillion, the UK market alone being valued at around $6 trillion, and will be HIP's initial rollout territory. HIP is creating a new asset class and secondary market by fractionally trading debt and equity in real time, a world first. Our initial focus will be residential. Over time, we will target the commercial, buy-to-let, refinancing, bridging loans, and mezzanine financing sectors, and will work our way across these sectors to provide a multitude of services. With HIP, first-time buyers will be able to purchase the percentage of the home they can afford, as opposed to the whole asset. Existing homeowners can now realize equity as cash without moving, all in real time. Buy-to-let landlords can offset their portfolio and the returns that the portfolio gives to other people, enabling them to release cash but maintain ownership. So, as you apply the core principles of our technology to different verticals, you get different results. You solve different problems. It's a huge industry. Potentially, we can create significant change in the trading of debt and equity globally. We're owner-driven and will provide a new level of financial freedom to the way property owners operate. Welcome to HIP.
So, imagine buying a house, not needing a bank.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting stuff. So this is the type of stuff we're exploring and we're looking at, and of course, we're just a residential real estate brokerage, right? So you can see why, we're garnering a lot of attention when it comes to this, right? Obviously, because we're looking at new ways of financing, providing value for our clients or consumers, our agents, and whatever it might be, right? Because things are changing. What other impacts will we see on the real estate market as crypto gains momentum and popularity? Growing market of people who want to transact in crypto. We want to facilitate that. We're a national brand. We're a national brand, and we have a massive database of buyers and waiting, like a massive data. How big is our database? It's huge.
150,000.
Yeah, 150,000 people in our database. These are real people that are looking to transact in real estate. Some of them are international buyers, right? So we do have inquiries from overseas. We've seen some from China recently. And we're facilitating deals on the West Coast and on the East Coast and whatnot in terms of our international buyers. So we see that. And the question does come up, do you take Bitcoin? Do you take cryptocurrency? What do most brokerages, what's the answer? Most people don't know how to answer that question, right? So, and truth be told, we're looking for input from the community, figure out a way to do this more efficiently. We're getting there. We now accept Bitcoin. We do. So if you want to make a deposit on a house, you want to purchase one, we can facilitate that. Not us personally, but who we've partnered with, we can do that. What are we doing now with our marketing? This is our buyer's guide. It's a book, and in there we do have a section that talks about receiving Bitcoin payments. This is a take on the visual that you've probably seen from Jan on how a bill becomes a law. No, it's how we take Bitcoin, transfer it to fiat currency, and then buy a house. Exciting stuff. But if anybody would like one of these buyer's guides, let us know. They're very slick looking, limited edition. Woo! Comes in the box. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. We have them for all. We can hand them out like candy. So let us know. What else are we doing? This is really cool. This got a lot of attention. So we said we're trying to grow the GPG family. We're a relatively new brokerage, young brokerage, but we're making a lot of waves. And we said for every client you refer us that does a deal with us before the end of the year, we'll give you $750 in Bitcoin. Right? So we'll do that. We'll give you $750 in Bitcoin. We'll put it right in your wallet. Figure out how to do it. I think we all know how to do it after the last 2 days, right? Yeah. We all know how to send Bitcoin around. But we'll do that. We'll put $750 in your wallet. I'm going to put it in your wallet if you send us a client. Right? So we're going to do that.
What if we send you 100?
100 clients? All day we would love to do that, brother.
All right.
If you got 100 clients, all day. So let's do it. So this caused a little bit of a stir. This caused a little bit of a stir. Chris, we were okay to do this. There's our regulator sitting there saying what we can say and what we can't say. But no, we were okay to do this. We were okay to give away Bitcoin to our clients that refer someone. This is the landing page, bitcoinrealestate.ca. And we'll get, Nathan's going to talk about that in a minute. And of course, we were the first real estate brokerage in Canada to announce a Bitcoin giveaway program. Ended up a few places. So again, you know, hold on. So the, well, okay, well, let's talk about that. So when you're causing a stir, you're disrupting, you know, you get a lot of haters, a lot of naysayers and whatnot, and we love it, man. We love it. It kind of gets us going.
Haters make more money.
Yeah. So there we go, man. That's what it is. We're actually, you know, we're actually looking at what's the next thing, right? And we're exploring this first real estate brokerage ICO. That's what we're looking at. Eventually, we want it to serve a real purpose and to be of value. That's what we're really looking at. So how long it takes. I mean, this is something that, I mean, we're hooked, right? So we're into this, and we want to get going with this. That's it for our PowerPoint. We want to get to this panel because I think you're going to hear some really interesting stuff for the next few minutes. Nathan, you want to come up here and talk a little bit about...
We got one more slide. We got one more slide. So this is the bring the beat back. Beautiful. The next slide after this. Oh, we didn't input it. Oh, that was okay. So we're gonna have to do this manually, guys. So we had that slide, but I think it's in the other computer. So what we're trying to do, we're really trying to bring value to the conference today. And you saw that we had that Bitcoin giveaway recently. We know that many of us here are trying to get started in digital currency and so on. So we're extending that Bitcoin giveaway to everyone here, of course. And everybody's been asking and exchanging business cards. And we didn't bring any business cards because we want to try something really cool with you here. So this is what we're going to do. We want you all to have our contact information, and we want you to have the landing page so that we can pay you your free Bitcoin if you knowing when you can afford real estate over the next year, whether it's, you know, mom, friend, whatever. We're going to get to the panel in a second here, but we're trying this for the very first time, so if you can pull out your phones for me. And this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to get you our business card and get you the landing page to their free Bitcoin. Text to 587.
Whoa, that's so fast.
Morning, everybody. Morning. 587-803-3260. 587-803-3260. Text the word crypto. What? You said hearts. Wow, thanks, brother. We're getting love from the crowd. This is a community. Okay, so 587-803-3260. Text the word crypto. And press send. And press send. We promise we're not going to spam you or call you or do absolutely anything. But this will get you our contact information. We also, as we move forward with trying to get this ICO up and running, we really want to be able to reach out to the people that want to be reached out to. So that's going to be something entirely up to you.
What's the number again?
587-803-3260. Did anybody get a response from that?
Yes. There's no service here.
Okay.
Yeah, service here sucks.
Dimitri got it. Dimitri's Wi-Fi provider is incredible. Crypto. And,
Did you get it?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we got it. It's working. Fantastic. We're really excited about that because we've never done that before. Okay, you got it too. Beautiful. So we're going to open it up to the panel now. We're going to sit down.
There he is. Okay, we're going to sit down.
We're going to ask a few questions and just explore the industry and the topic. It's exciting. I noticed when David said, who'd like to buy a house without a bank involved? Good Lord. In Canada, all of us. Right? It's unreal. What's that? Yeah, and selling one with no cash. In fact, in California, they have that currency listed as a payment option. So when we're inputting listings and so on, you can input the payment options that the seller is willing to accept. Here we do it in the comments. So we have to say seller willing to accept digital currency. We can do that in our marketing as well, but in terms of the database, we're not as advanced or progressive as the States yet. So, but it's happening. Yeah, selling, buying, all with digital currency. Awesome. Hey guys.
Hey. I've got questions. I've got plenty of questions. So I'm gonna start off from a consumer perspective, what does something like this look like? Why is it any better or worse if it is worse? But I don't imagine it would be worse. But so what's the rub? Why is this a good direction for you guys to go, other than just it's disruptive?
I'll try. Sorry, Craig Brock came down from Edmonton this morning. Thank you, Craig.
I'm here to answer some questions for Grandma and Grandpa over here who don't know enough about crypto yet. Myself, I don't know enough either. But I guess to break that down into some sort of smaller elements, more digestible elements, when we think about buying and selling property for a client and doing our best for our clients to get them the best deals and that sort of thing, we break it down into three categories. We want to find them the best home possible for the best price possible with the least amount of hassle possible, make the transaction as smooth as possible. So when I think about it in those three elements, for the best home possible, I'm not sure there's necessarily a huge impact yet at this point. We're just sort of on the cusp of this industry. When I think about best home possible, obviously that's constrained by people's budgets and where they need to be located, etc. So best home possible is really providing the widest amount of homes that we possibly can to our clients. I don't think necessarily that there's an incentive yet for people who are wanting to buy or sell crypto that's going to necessarily open up additional options for them. But certainly in the future, I think that will happen. There's no question about that. If you just look back a couple of months ago, Rick Hilton family, right, they made their fortune in real estate. They were opening up the sale of a $40 million property of theirs for crypto. So these things are definitely on the cusp, and they're getting more and more popular. I don't necessarily know we're there yet. In terms of best price, again, I'm not sure there's a huge impact yet at this point, just in regards to if you're paying with crypto, are you going to get a significant discount versus the traditional mortgage route? I'm not sure that's necessarily the case yet, but certainly in some of the ancillary costs surrounding the closing of a real estate transaction, some of those functions can be performed by smart contracts or blockchain technology, etc. Removal of some of those middlemen will help to save people costs. So certainly there's some cost efficiencies there. And then in terms of least amount of hassle, when we talk about the tokenization of assets and what Dave alluded to, eventually when we have the infrastructure built up to the point where it needs to be, selling or buying any type of asset, whether it's a real world or a digital asset, a house, a car, or whatever, will be as simple as sending an email. You'll have all of that information attached to a token, and that will essentially be executed by a smart contract that sends dollars one way and the token the other way.
You have to remember that the industry itself is somewhat archaic, right? So we're embracing the new world of data and all of this stuff, and I think the majority of the industry is somewhat frightened by it. They don't understand it. They're a little bit scared about how that might impact their business. We're saying bring it on. We'll just be the ones that are there when it arrives.
Yeah, right now the big benefit to consumers is obviously the way to get the most money for a property is to have the most interest in it. To have the most interest in it, it's to be open to as many forms of purchase as possible. Multiple offers happen when you get more than one person interested in the same product at the same time. So by all means, let's bring in the buyers from Russia and China and so on, and let's bring them here. As a consumer, that increases the opportunity for you price-wise. It's massive.
Awesome. Now, I on the other side of that, how does this impact the actual mortgage broker? Like, what looks different for them?
You have to ask for a mortgage broker. That's not what we do.
Sorry, the agent.
Real estate agent. Oh, okay. That we can answer.
Yeah,
that we can answer.
Yeah, the agency, I mean, the whole purpose of blockchain, or the whole end result of blockchain, is the elimination of intermediaries, right? And, how many people, if they could get the best price for their home without involving agents, who would do that? All of us, right? Right? And there's other intermediaries too, really, when you think about it. In North America, we probably have the most anywhere. Every transaction has at least 2 realtors. It's got 2 lawyers. It's got a mortgage company on both sides. It's got the land titles office. It's 7 people involved in one transaction, and it's because of a lack of trust between everybody, right? And that's what blockchain hopefully in the future will will alleviate because it eliminates that distrust because it's blocked in.
Craig?
When I think about it, I sort of think about how the internet and internet technology changed real estate and some of the things that happened in the last 20 years. If you go back 20 years when we were sort of on the cusp of the first .com or .bomb, as some people call it, and some of the things that were being built up at the time that people thought might replace an agent's role, and that still may happen in the future. I don't discount that possibility at all. But I think if you look at the way that the internet has transformed real estate, it's some of the infrastructure and applications that have changed. So you have the base layer of the internet, you've built up now customer relationship management software tools that allow agents to interact with their clients, lead generation systems. People do all of their shopping online, so you've got web-based services that have popped up to make those things easier for clients and things of that nature. So I think some of the changes to an agent's day-to-day operation are not necessarily going to be taking away pieces of their job, but it's going to be adapting to a new ecosystem of these different applications that solve different problems than the internet was able to solve. And certainly there will be pieces of the transaction that will be eaten, like we were talking about, some of the closing costs that will go away, some of those extra steps that will go away. I don't necessarily think the human element of real estate will necessarily go away entirely. There's still a role for agents to play and a role for intermediaries to play. But certainly as we develop the technology and develop these pieces of infrastructure, it will certainly change the way that agents interact with the other parts of the real estate transaction.
Now, I kind of want to dive into some of the more stuff near the end there. I started, light bulbs started going off. You showed a video on how this could really change ownership of property. And from what I've seen with my group of friends and younger people that are kind of coming up, buying a home is less and less feasible for some people. It's, you know, house prices in Calgary are insane. You go to Vancouver, it's unattainable for most people. But when you talk about having multiple owners of a single piece of property and being able to do things with that, I start thinking of the way that people are starting not to buy cars. Instead, they're doing things like ride sharing, or they're doing things like Car2Go, where your membership gets you part of that. So could that feasibly be done where you buy either a membership into some sort of a residential where
Timeshare.
Yeah, it's essentially it's a timeshare except for multiple properties everywhere, and you can resell that asset and you just own that percentage of.
Yeah, I'll let Craig speak to this a little bit more, but yeah, that's exactly what that video showed, was the liquidity or the fluctuation in debt and equity levels, fractional ownership. We took a car to go to the airport, right? It's just, like you said, less and less people are buying cars or owning things. You know, the generation before us is all about ownership. You have to have your piece of land, you have to have your house. It's not the way this new generation thinks, right? Ownership is something different. You know, we talked about first-time home buyers, fractional, allowing you to actually get in the real estate market with a fraction, right?
It's not much when you have fractional ownership. There's not as much of a barrier to entry, right? Like people completely avoid home ownership if they can't get that down payment. Well, now, if you could buy a portion of a home, then yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge thing because, I mean, we're talking about Alberta, Toronto, and Vancouver. Homeownership is just unachievable. There's no possibility of doing it. And for those that do have homes, what about investing in a shopping center, shopping mall, or Bankers Hall? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to own a portion of Bankers Hall, right? And the idea behind blockchain is centralizing the real estate. And it's similar to the stock market, right? We trust the stock market. The stock market operates in real time. It operates globally. People can invest no matter where they are. Once the blockchain technology can be applied to real estate, we could do that. And you could trade pieces of real estate in real time, just like that video showed. You could own a piece of Bankers Hall. And maybe you're a first-time investor, maybe you're 16 years old, and you want to get into real estate, the banks are not going to lend you anything as a 16-year-old, even if you've got 10 grand cash. You're not in the market. But now, in the future, when this technology is applied, you could, as a young person, as in anybody, invest in real estate all over the world.
Yeah, well, I guess if I can just add a couple of thoughts to that quickly before we move on. So I think there are two things that you mentioned that I would sort of want to touch on, and I think they're a little different, but the first is the affordability of homes, and I think that most people understand that that's sort of a functionality of the banking system that we are, that we're working under today. The endless printing of free money, the lending of money to people who shouldn't necessarily be creditworthy, things of that nature that have inflated these asset bubbles, and that's made homes unaffordable in lots of different locations. So crypto solves that in a lot of ways. Right? I think that's why a lot of people are here in this room in the first place. So that's number one. And I think as that catches on, certainly people will start to want to transact more so with crypto and Bitcoin as opposed to inflationary fiat currencies and things of that nature. So that will just drive the market itself. And then, I'm sorry, the other part of your...
So I guess we were kind of
asset
getting...
tokenization. Yes. So asset tokenization, I mean, that's something that will be applied to real world assets, digital assets. Fractional ownership is going to change the way that every industry works, including the real estate industry, and absolutely it will lead to new business models where people are, like you said, using I think there already is a crypto company that sort of is doing an Airbnb on token. These things are going to become more and more common. They may or may not still be short term. You may see people using those for longer term rentals or to purchase or to group fund to purchase, things of that nature for sure.
Yeah. Now, sorry, you can go ahead.
Yeah, and just to break that down a little bit, because we're talking about our industry, we know the terms really well, we're familiar with it, but in terms of ownership in a tokenized state, the way that works on paper is you have title, like a title to a home, and that operating company, that LLC that owns that would be tokenized, right? So you wouldn't have to go to land titles and register your 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter portion of West Edmonton Mall. You wouldn't have to go do that. You would just own, because it's registered, the title is with the LLC company. Okay. You would then own a fraction of that LLC company. Okay. Similar to a condominium, you own a portion of that building.
Now, if we're getting into the idea of owning a portion of a piece of real estate, I mean, I live in Calgary, and if I own a piece of Bankers Hall, that's all well and good. I've been there. Now, is there a worry that you could have properties that exist somewhere on the globe, and because the market is so open and free, people start investing in properties that are either misrepresented or just flat out don't exist? And then what's the solution for fixing opportunities like that where somebody could game the system and have a property where, oh, this is beautiful, and it's actually a dilapidated hellhole? Like, how do we fix that?
I think it was Craig was talking about this, again, the concept of big data and whatnot, but almost like a Carfax for properties, right? Where you have, like, again, blockchain technology, right? The ownership, title, all that stuff. The data would have to be, remember you spoke to that?
Yeah, so I think eventually when you look at asset tokenization, there will be certain elements of a piece of real estate or a piece of property that will be attached to that token. So it can include things like the real property report, it can include any permits that have been pulled for renovations on the property. You'll have all the property previous history, sales history, listing history, all of these kinds of things that will come with that token. So we'll help to alleviate some of those concerns, but there's no question that there are going to be people out there looking to game the system. I think if you look at the 2,000 cryptocurrencies roughly that are in existence right now, I don't know how many of those we would consider non-scams, but it's a small portion, of course, right? So as the industry develops, there's going to be other people looking to game the systems in other ways. So I don't have a good answer for that as of yet, but certainly suffice to say that security and insurance companies and things will have a role to play.
Well, we're watching what HIP's doing, because they're essentially doing that right now. So they're kind of blazing the trail there,
And that's why you're seeing it in developed lands first, obviously, because Right now we have land title. You're not going to be buying real estate in the Sudan probably this afternoon. But the way you prove that, like right now, the way that's proven is through a land titles registry. Right, that's how you know the property exists. And the bank's in Toronto, and they're funding on property here. Right, they have a home inspector, they have a land titles registry, but it's all centralized. So we have a land titles registry here in Calgary. They have another one in Red Deer. They're all over the place. But when the technology evolves, if there was like a singular United Nations land titles registry where properties were built, registered, and they were submitted there, obviously the adopters would trust that source, just as we do now. And as that technology and that threshold and barrier to confirmation spreads through nations, they would be able to buy in, hopefully globally.
Quick question on that. Yeah. Isn't it something scary, like they did in when they took all the file from everyone in the medical, every hospital, and they asked for Bitcoin in return, giving back the information? It's like stealing all the information from everyone, all the data that was taken from every houses in the market, and then boom, you want to buy a house? Give me some Bitcoin. I'm going to give you back the information. It's become a little bit scary, isn't it?
I can speak to that a little bit. So that happened with the NHS in England, I believe.
Yeah.
So the issue there was not crypto related. It was that they did a piss poor job of securing their network, and it was a honeypot. So the issue there was actually centralization of data that wasn't secured by the individual, but rather secured by the National Health Service. So what ended up happening, if anybody's unfamiliar, is the National Health Service in England was running on, I think it was Windows XP. And there was a massive bug that was revealed years ago, and they were told, hey, you guys need to update all your systems to Windows 7 or beyond because you're gonna get screwed. Somebody's gonna hack your system. And they looked and said, that's pretty expensive, and they didn't do it. And so then what does somebody do? They hacked the system, they shut everything down, they said, we will not release the data, we will not unencrypt it until you send us crypto. So the crypto was actually the secure part of that, because they knew that the crypto, if they got sent it, which they did, that would be irreversible. Meanwhile, their shitty system that they had set up was the crap fest that resulted in them losing a whole bunch of money. So had it been perhaps secured in a way where individual patients had control, like public-private key of their information, that wouldn't have been an issue. And the same could be said of stuff like land titles and stuff like that. I believe if the individual is responsible for that, yes, it's a lot of responsibility, but so is owning a fucking house. So I would say if an individual has responsibility over that, it's no longer a honeypot. Like you can try and target an individual person, but it's way more worth your while to target an entire system that is still centralized, that's holding everybody's data, than an individual. So that's my point.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Right, so, and that answers that question. But
do you guys need like a PR guy?
100%. I like that. That was interesting. But yeah, like truth be told, we still have to abide by the rules and regulations of the real estate world, right? So nothing gets done without jumping through the proper hoops and identifying the buyer and all that stuff still exists. But we're just talking about down the road future stuff. We see where this is going, right? A lot of this, the ownership, right? We see where it's going. So we're just trying to learn too, man. Like that's why we're all here. It's kind of being engaged in the community and learning about it as well. And as it relates to our industry and our company, what can we do to better service our agents and our clients first and foremost? That's what we want to do, man. Like, that video talked about first-time home buyers. Like, the thought of ownership sometimes it's overwhelming, it's daunting. I could never afford that. But fractional ownership, yeah, now I got a piece of something. Pretty cool.
I've got a very real-world question for you. I'm moving in the next year. No, I'm here.
Someone just got $750.
Yeah. So, so if I want to list and sell my home and then look for a new home. Obviously, it'll probably be difficult to find somebody selling their home in Calgary, but if I want to list mine for Bitcoin, what does that then look like for me as a seller? This is a real question because I really am actually interested in doing this.
Craig, I'll let you take this because we want to do this exact thing. And I'm telling you, brother, if we get millions of eyes on that property, demand may rise, right? Supply and demand.
So I was actually thinking of doing this with a property of mine. I've got a number of investment properties. And unfortunately, it was about a month too late for us to be able to actually put it up for Bitcoin. We didn't quite get the agreement in place with our service provider in time. But I think, like we talked about earlier, certainly there's a trend in that direction. And I think it's going to become more and more popular as people try to jump onto the crypto wagon. The biggest asset they have, the biggest chunk of their wealth is tied up in their home. If they want to diversify some of that into a crypto asset, an excellent way to do so is to sell your home for a crypto, for Bitcoin specifically. As it stands now, from a seller's perspective, it doesn't really change anything from your perspective.
What changes is the company that markets the property. So you'd want to list that property with a company that understands what that's all about, and then market it properly, right? And then let us take care of the rest of it, and then you can just be cashed out in Bitcoin, bro.
The rest of it happens sort of on the back end, but the rest of it is the same as selling a house for anything else.
I think.
Can I put a QR code on my lawn?
Oh, hell yes. Hell yes. Again, any new ideas, guys, throw them at us. And when it comes to if you have an idea, we'd love to hear it. Yeah, what's your idea?
If your backyard's really massive, paint a QR code that can be seen.
Oh my God. Are you serious? Dude, that would make some news.
So I could just mow my lawn.
I don't see anything else with that, do you? Like, Nathan?
No, we actually, let's do it. Let's do it. We're going to wrap this up and we're going to go sort this out back there. We're going to
Ben sells for Bitcoin. Ben sells for Bitcoin.
We're really excited. I'll tell you what, we're so excited about this for a million and one reasons, but right now we're in the middle of a transaction. This is a true story. Right now we have a pending transaction in Vancouver for roughly $7.4 million. This is a gigantic property monetarily, one of the biggest in Canada. And the buyer's bringing the money from overseas, from Asia. Big problem, because with fiat currency, with the laws that we have now, he's transferred the money, but he transferred it through the Bank of America, right? So this guy, we talk about the stock market, right? I want to buy that, I had to buy it, oh, I bought it, I possess it. This guy wants to buy a home in real estate, and it's taking him months, because he's transferred over roughly $9 million. It's at the Bank of America. Now it has to seize in there. It has to go through all the regulatory requirements. They have to go through the money laundering rules to make sure that this is all real money and so on. Then they have to transfer it to Canada. And then it has to go to the lawyers on this side and then the lawyers on that side. This transaction is literally 4 weeks in right now. And you've got this buyer and a seller that want to transact. That's a broken system. That's a broken system, and this is part of the technology that hopefully will fix that for people, and they can just do what they need to do with just a few intermediaries, not the dozens that are required right now for an international purchase.
Question about that. Isn't it a two-sword, two-edge with that? Because if we have a big problem like that, and we can solve it like with what you guys want to do, it'd be awesome for both seller and buyer. It'd be incredible for them. What happened with the market right now, if you look in Vancouver, so many rich people from Asia company, Middle East, they come here, they buy a shitload of stuff, they leave it empty. But all this might happen way more sooner, way more often. They're gonna buy more stuff. They can basically not control the market, but move it the way they want it. If that can be happening, they're gonna buy way much more stuff, leave it empty. Isn't it? Is there a way to counter that, or is there a way to prevent that?
We can do it now. It just takes longer.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you were talking about earlier. You said lawyer, you said people to do the transaction, sit down and bring the money. It caused problem for them, but it caused a problem for them, but the system make money out of it, and that's people that live here. Like You have lawyer and people that live here, that real estate agent and people that live through that. A lot of people is going to lose their job. There's many, I can see many problems, but there's good solution at the same time, isn't it? How are you going to manage that?
Yeah, sorry.
Just real quick, you know, we've been in, I don't know how many hotels in the last week. They're empty, man, because Airbnb is an industry that
we both use Car2Go.
We use Car2Go, man. We you know what I'm saying? Like Amazon killed Sears just today.
Change is happening. Change is inevitable. You know, the taxi industry, whatever it is. You know, you just have to make the decision to work with the change or be run over by it.
I definitely see what you're saying there, and I do think that's a very real, I suppose, threat to any real estate market is capital flight from a country moving there and just buying up real estate to get their money out of wherever it was before. But then that screws the real estate market because all of these homes, again, are sitting empty just as a vessel to hold capital. And that means that your options for homes are all taken up by people just trying to get their money out. On the other hand, you could also look at it as you have potentially now people doing things like going in on a property in small amounts and then using that property to then, I'm talking about local people, rent that out or Airbnb it out after the fact and making a profit on that as well. So, I mean, you could have positives and negatives there. And I guess part of that is the regulation of what happens when crypto is used in a real estate transaction. Is there vetting there?
Yeah, so don't mistake, we're not the regulators. Like, we facilitate the deal, right? So we make, if you want to sell a house, we'll make it as easy and as painful as possible for you. We facilitate the deal. We're not the regulators, we're not the government. We still have to abide by the laws of the land, right? So whatever that is. If the government already put measures in place to slow down hot markets, to slow down spending and whatever, the regulators and the governments are the ones that kind of control that, I guess. We just facilitate the deal. Negotiate it. Get your top dollar. That's what we do. That makes sense. Anyways, guys, that's about it.
Is there any last minute questions that we can grab from anybody else out there?
Yeah. Okay, it's just straight up, I'm doing the standard typical, I'm going to sell my house. I call the broker, get some realtors. Realtors have whatever their fee is, depending on who you're dealing with. Fee-wise, cutting out middlemen, where's my advantages working with you guys?
I love that question. When would you like to schedule an appointment? Yeah, 100%. We'll talk after, because that's more than just a 30-second answer. Our value propositions, that's what we're very proud of. We have a phrase we use at the Greater Property Group that cost is only a factor in the absence of value. Right? Cost is only a factor in the absence of value. And unfortunately, the real estate industry, people question the cost because they don't see the value in a real estate agent, right? Sometimes, right? If you could get top dollar in the shortest amount of time with no hassle without an agent, you would do that all day, wouldn't you? But what's more important? The net in your pocket or the commission you pay? It's obviously the net in your pocket. So if we can show you a way to get a higher net for your property, we'll do that. Yeah. So we have some unique selling propositions, some things that bring buyers to the table over and above the average agent. So, yeah. Cool.
If not, I can wrap it up there.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah. Hey, just before we wrap up, this is our first foray into this community, and we just want to express our appreciation for the warm welcome, and especially from Jan and his team. I think everybody in this room has been beneficiaries of their hospitality and of their energy. And how about we give a round of applause for those guys? Thank you.
Thank you guys very much. Let's give these guys one more round of applause. And feel free to grab yourself a snack. We'll be back in a little bit with the next presentation. Thank you.
I don't know, like, that's like top 5.
Well, if you guys
Yeah, and so right now we're saying. Oh, I got one. Yeah, thanks. It's the first time it's done in August. From my perspective, so once we have the anchor kind of locked down, then we're looking at 1 megawatt, 5 megawatt. Right now we're looking at that's my choice. Once you got that locked down, then unless you have perspective to work It's all about it. It's about a 2-hour drive from Edmonton to 3-hour drive from here. So it's a little bit northeast of
Exactly.
for at least 60 years. Two of them have been right down the So now we wouldn't have to be classified. Because pending the next election, everybody
no, I should be okay, man.
Awesome. It is nice for us to have that dual.
Yeah, dude, I upgraded from
as a power generator.
You know, oh, there we are. Yeah, there we go. I know there's food up here. And
it's going fast.
Still the I-5.
Okay, well, let's grab a bite. Let's chat. We're at now.
Yeah, but some other, she decided like, if you did addition to obviously.
I would say though, the demand or the number of calls I was getting had.
I get like
See, I had issues
a year ago there was
with
more of a
video trying to edit it.
okay, we need to get out of China. Because the government's cracking down.
oh, like the rendering is super.
Yeah, they never did do that. And so it's
But it's just like it's awesome.
correct.
Fantastic.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So when it comes
yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, you have like 30 seconds of that is all like, you know, bunch of BS. So, yeah, no, it's
because when I crunch the numbers, again, the main variables are obviously on the revenue side, it's the crypto price. But on
there's a lot
the
of
cost side, it's okay, well, how much did you pay for your upfront capital to get the machines and all the other upfront expenses required? And then it's your electricity costs. It's sort of you can't underestimate the first part of our state capital. We really need to bring that down from my analysis and discussions with other people. Yes, it's easy to cover your variable costs, but when you're trying to pay down that upfront capital, that's the difficult part.
Okay, so I can do this and
okay, and so that's a good thing in regards to some of the legacy and early mover advantage.
Yes,
to have that. Exactly. If that's paid for based on the price to be higher early on, then
Going forward with new investment. Going forward with new investment and new money coming in.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's why it's kind of if we're going to invest X amount of dollars, is it better to go out and buy new equipment? Because every month there seems to be new equipment coming out, but then it's what's the value of that dollar for the cash
Okay.
and it sounds like you guys are.
Yeah, no, what do you,
Well, you know what? To be honest, I feel
well, and
on the network. Even if they're 2 or 3 cents, 4 cents, or like say whatever.
Yeah.
Usually that you're going to get a lot of them.
Correct. Yes.
Just a little hour.
Yeah. Just because again, it's kind of like a penny stock.
Right. Yeah.
The downside is the 3 pennies, but the upside could be multiples.
Yes. As long as you can sell it, you can sell it.
Yeah.
If been mining for months and haven't sold it, it's the closest about it. Then it goes up.
Yeah, so I am curious to hear Jeff's presentation.
Yeah.
I am heading down to the World Crypto Con. Yeah, it said like 5,000 crypto enthusiasts. So let's see what that goes. Yeah, it sounds like and then on the ASIC side, is it mainly sort of Bitcoin?
Well, Bitcoin, it's a little new generation. I mean, even some of one of those strategies, one of the systems is some of these trend things. I don't know, you want to do Australia, there's a see the map, you can see what the things are.
Yeah.
You can go there and look it's important points.
Yes.
But it's it's advertising for it's also advertising for local businesses.
No, right.
But if that would be an interesting trend is to see what those are reflected.
Yeah.
How many of those into the after advertising. Leveraging that knowledge to combine
Yes, and that's kind of when I had my discussion with Jeff. Right now, the biggest challenge for 1,800 plus coins out there is what's the purpose of what will it be used for other than just a simple speculative investment where you're hoping that person buys it back and goes to
so see Bitcoin.
Yeah. And so it's utility aspect that's really important. There's that next step. Increase the value have that being held by tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people versus a few just a person. So I think that's the next challenge. And that's a challenge for most people. But yeah, like I said, I like the brand. Just a smart. Can we get you guys a drink or something?
Yeah, we should do. I think we have some lunch and stuff here. That's right. I think this could go like that. That's what sounds like.
10 minutes. And get ready.
Check out your channel after too.
Oh, awesome! Thanks.
I
Yeah.
just watch Dave Dash and the fucking Crypto Daily. He's pretty funny.
Crypto Daily is fucking awesome.
I'm gonna start my own channel soon.
Yeah?
I don't know
That'd be
like
wicked.
technical stuff, but my thing is I'm actually just gonna go up to people on the streets and give them Bitcoin and just have a conversation with them and get people that have no idea about Bitcoin.
Dude, that's what it's
crypto.
all about, is integrating other people into this environment, you know?
Just like find someone say, hey, do you know about Bitcoin? Say, hey, you got a phone? Just put here's $50 worth of Bitcoin and like show them how to set it up and just be like, you know, spread your crypto sort of thing.
Yeah, no, it's sort of tight. I mean, also like, Crypto Daily, he integrates a lot of humor into his
Yeah, he's
videos,
funny.
you know, and I love that. I love that about him. But I do understand, like, there were some times where there were delays in like him producing videos, and like, in my heart of hearts, I get it. I understand. Because you have so much going on. You're getting business opportunities that come in through email, and on top of that, he had to set up his studio in his new house and all of that jazz. And dude, I get it. You have a lot of shit going on, and you still want to travel and do things and this and that. And then never mind creating a video every day and integrating humor. And I see the editing that he does. It's a lot of time.
His probably got something like for quality for the comedy, his was the best. And like for for technical stuff, I like what Nick has for David Dash. He's pretty smart too.
Yeah.
That was the guy that first got me into crypto, and then I followed his advice when I first saw his video and it did well.
Yeah.
There were guys that you guys were recording.
Yeah, they should all be up. We should be able to get them all. I talked to Corey about that.
Thanks.
It was like, we have 4 angels going out all the time.
Yeah, man, cool. That's the number for the
Do you think Bitcoin is going to be successful? Because the easy business, like a lot of people don't like that.
I think it will.
It has the supply that's gonna really.
I think it will if they keep expanding the team.
But the point that you made there is something I didn't consider. So now I'm like, yeah, well, I'm still gonna hold on that. The price right now is at the bottom.
Yeah.
So if anyone that gets in now is pretty much at the bottom. So.
Gincoin is amazing. There is a reason why there was such a price jump, right? Because it offers value to basically anybody. If they want to set up a masternode, click and go.
That seemed like a good thing to me. And I was looking at the returns on masternodes.com. I was like, this one. And another one I'm liking right now is BetX. It's for a betting site. It's just a cheap masternode. I'm really big. I think betting is the biggest thing for crypto. I just this morning put like almost $100 in bets on nolimit.com, and I was playing poker last night. So
Yeah.
you know, talk about use case. There's a use case right there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wicked. That's amazing. I think Gincoin long run, if they keep expanding their team, they'll do well.
Yeah. And what was that one you mentioned earlier that you?
Infinite.
Infinite. Oh, with Infinite.
Yeah,
what's the price for a masternode there?
I think it's like $600. It's not bad.
Nice.
I know. $600. Hold it now and just see what happens when the bulls run. You know?
I think I don't know anything about computer stuff. I'm not very technical. Like when they start talking about setting up, I couldn't even set up a VPN to watch the American version of Netflix. So I could watch my show. I couldn't even do that.
I gotcha.
So I just like, you know, it took me forever just to learn how to secure my wallets and stuff.
Yeah.
I went through a lot. I went through like months of just having anxiety about losing your crypto, reading about like hacks and stuff. So I had like backed up on papers, backed up on this, and I'm like.
See, that's what I was talking to Ken about, right? Because he's had enough coins to set up a masternode for 8 months now, but he's never done it because he just doesn't know how.
Yeah.
Right? And then the platforms don't offer the one-click setup for it. And so I told him, I said, like, here's my contact information. I'll set it up for you. And I said, so like, what's your entire purpose? You know, like, what do you want to do? And he said he wants the incentives from the masternode to go directly to a charity wallet. So basically, that charity wallet, it keeps getting incentive nonstop. And I'm like, that's a fucking great idea. I'll help you do it. Let's make a video, right? Because that's what I do, like setting up masternodes.
So you got a business in Calgary setting up masternodes.
What's that?
You operate in Calgary setting up masternodes.
I'm out of Winnipeg, but I do like anybody that needs a masternode set up at any given time, I can set it up for them, and I do it through Jan. Yeah, so Jan gives me their contact information, and then boom, I set up everything. I show proof that it's all functioning, and then you literally receive incentives. Like, then, yeah, and you're on your way. And like I said, I've set up over 600 masternodes, like, to date.
Which been the most one, like pivots?
No,
I was maybe that I've sold all my pivots.
I hear that all the time.
My daughter picked it up, so I let my kids pick out, this is a joke, I'll give them one each to pick, and my daughter's like, I want this one too. And then it did well for me, and then I sold it all. I mean, I didn't even know I had a masternode. That's how dumb I was at crypto. I didn't even know what a masternode was.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, buy Ripple, sell it.
See,
got that part right.
I didn't know either at first, and that's when I researched everything and I came up with that. Like, I found out about masternodes probably about a year ago. Yeah, but there's so many like forks from Dash that have that functionality. Yeah, Zcoin is another one. The list goes on. Horizon is another one. Zencash. The list goes on. Yeah.
Well, right now I'm just learning more. Oh, right over here, guys.
So tell me, I was mine or something?
Yeah.
But I do know
well that I'm just looking at
financial world,
trying to
whether or
look
not
at
what they want to do with crypto.
Yeah.
I'm one of them.
But right now it's just good.
Yeah.
I'm always worried about what they let us do.
What I can do for trading, what I can do to generate some revenue.
Absolutely.
So it's a matter of learning this thing here.
Yeah.
And then see what happens. But at least this is it's great. It's the people like some of the people that get the discount.
Yeah.
And Benjamin has a nice YouTube that I'll be able to watch now.
Nice. Well, that's what IoT, blockchain are like future for a lot of things. In construction, we have BIM technology, building information models, plug in with blockchain and IoT. When we put those together with robots and AI, and then we put together a mass production, all of a sudden the whole thing looks like a whole different world. A whole different world of finance, a whole different world of construction, a whole different methods. And it changes so many things that the blockchain people that we were communicating with, it blows our mind because we can't even think of all of the ramifications of what's coming.
Yeah, he was talking about
Yesterday the guy was talking around 5-ish, and it was about food.
Yeah.
And what you could do with blockchain and food.
That's right. Yeah, I
So
saw
it's like,
that.
I said, oh my God. And he said, look at the billions that is being wasted. But if people would look at the blockchain and be able to look at their process and eliminate waste.
Hello everyone, welcome back after lunch. We have a presentation up here from Adam O'Brien. We actually have some history. My first job in crypto was through Adam. I approached him and I said, hey, is there any way I can do anything for you? And he kind of reached out to me as well. So he's up in Edmonton. I was down here in Calgary. He had some ATMs. And he asked if I would, help with just general maintenance and things like that, and running around to ATMs. And he said he'd pay me in Bitcoin. And a couple of years ago, that was a dream come true. So I started running around, all over the city for him, doing errands, whatever needed to be done. And I was more than happy to do it. And not only that, but at the time, Bitcoin was like, maybe $500-600, and so like all those times you paid me, technically you paid me like 10 times over. So thanks, so thanks for that, because I just kept it all. But Adam's a great guy. He runs Bitcoin ATMs, and you're getting into some other stuff too. So I'm just going to let you do your thing and explain what you're doing, and enjoy everyone.
Awesome. Well, thanks, man. Definitely overpaid you for those all those crypto transactions that we did. I think I'm looking for some back now. My name's Adam, and I'm here to kind of talk about, obviously, Bitcoin ATMs. It's kind of where we are in this space. It's kind of where we started, and where we're continuing to go. So kind of just to hop into it, kind of there's three different ideas in relation to these machines, in both how they impact the crypto space, their benefit, and then also kind of where they're going to end up and where I see they're going. But before we talk about that, of course, being the narcissist that is everyone in Bitcoin, I'll talk a bit about myself. So I'm Adam O'Brien, and I found Bitcoin a little bit over 5 years ago. I can't really remember what I was kind of looking into or what I was looking for, but I remember reading about the concept, and kind of like all of you here today, kind of fell down that rabbit hole pretty quickly. Lots of sleepless nights, lots of articles to read, lots of misinformation about how it's ruining our world, and the rest of it. At the time, and still today, I was living in Edmonton. Some of you from Calgary might know it as City of Champions, maybe the Hockey Alberta, or the Alberta's hockey capital. If you're not from Calgary, it's just a few hours north of here. Kind of running out of room there. Eventually, after all that research and everything, I wanted to go and finally buy some Bitcoin, and kind of just wanted to experiment with it, kind of wanted to buy one Bitcoin. At the time, it was about $100 a coin. Ben, you want to come hook me up here? There we go. At the time, kind of about $100 a coin, and kind of thought, great. So I grabbed a $100 bill and found a guy on Kijiji that was going to sell me a coin. So we kind of conversed a little bit, talked a little bit, and then we decided to meet on White Avenue. And White Avenue is kind of divided into two different kind of places. Anything west of 99th Street is really sweet. It's kind of a hipster's paradise. Overpriced coffee, vegan ice cream, bong shops, Instagrammable breakfast spots, maybe even a Bitcoin Solutions office one day coming. There we go. Is this clicker working? How does this clicker work?
Not the middle button, but the arrow.
Okay, good. This is technology right here. This is tough to use. So this is coming November 1st, which we're super excited about. And then east of 99th Street is stabby, for lack of a better word. It's kind of where you don't want to be in the. Yeah, that's right. That's what's where you're stabbed. That's what wrong here, man. Okay. So that's where I went to go to buy my first Bitcoin, was the stabbing part of White Ave, the real drug dealer experience. I got to pull into a parking lot. Pardon me?
No, I'm just kidding. I said Crack Central.
Yeah, Crack Central. No, that works. I wouldn't joke about that. That's legit. So I pulled into the parking lot of this rundown convenience store. This guy opened up my passenger door, hopped in the car. I don't think he even said hello. I kind of gave him $100. Nice big brown $100 bill. Opened up my very, very glitchy blockchain app, And at the time, that was the only app available on the App Store, which later got deleted, and it was a big mess. It wasn't the blockchain, it was just an app called Blockchain, which also confused me at the time. He scanned my QR code, said, "Okay, thanks a bunch," hopped out and left. And that was it. My Bitcoin cherry was popped, and I don't know. I was terrified. I thought I got scammed. I didn't want to say anything. Didn't want to get stabbed with a used needle or whatever was going on over there. But that was it. So I left, went home. Much to my joy, opened up the blockchain app and realized it said confirm, and that's all it said back in the day. It didn't say how many confirmations, just said confirmed, and you're all good. So that was good. I read a bit about confirmations, was happy with that, and off you go. So as you guys can tell, not a huge technological background. Don't really, I'm not a comp sci major or anything like that. But like all great things, kind of thought there must be a better way. And so that's why I decided that I wanted to be that stabby person jumping in people's cars, and that's what we set out to do. Now we've evolved a little bit. After putting that ad on Kijiji, that whole summer, the fall, the winter, everything kind of blew up, and my phone just didn't really stop ringing. And that's kind of when Bitcoin Solutions came about. Now this is not going to be a 20-minute, Bitcoin Solutions promo, but it's important to kind of give some validity about who we are in the space and how we work in the space. In order to let me talk up here for the next few minutes about Bitcoin ATMs. So, we've been around since 2013. We placed the first Bitcoin ATM in Alberta, and that was in Edmonton. And then a few months later, in May, we placed the first Bitcoin ATM in Saskatchewan, and that was in May 2014. So 2014, early in mid 2014 was kind of when Alberta, Saskatchewan got their first ATMs. And that was us. Now we have over 20 across Alberta and Saskatchewan, and our mission statement has kind of always been to make Bitcoin accessible and understood. Obviously, the accessibility comes with the ATMs, and that's been crucial in how we survive. And then understandability is basically, I think, necessary for the entire crypto space. I think it's so important that people understand how to and when to use Bitcoin, and that's kind of how we set out to work. Over the last 5 years, our user base has obviously grown exponentially. It's been wild to see all the attractions to the space, and now we're seeing people using the word blockchain as this buzzword. I remember the Iced Tea company that put blockchain in their name, and their stock price jumped like 180% or whatever it was. So it's been very exciting. But most importantly, these machines is kind of where our focus has been, and it's been pretty cool to see them expand over the last few years, and we're excited to see kind of where they're going. So first, this kind of leads to kind of the impact of Bitcoin machines in the space. So this right here is a picture of a coffee house in Vancouver, BC that hosted the first ever Bitcoin ATM in the world, to my knowledge. That was all the rage. It was kind of it was the place to be. Worldwide headlines. People didn't really know what Bitcoin was, but it was pretty cool. You could buy it here here in Canada, in Vancouver, and it kind of took people by surprise. I think it was kind of like Bitcoin had never really hit the mainstream, short of a few minor lapses, and then now here it was, and it was here in the physical presence. 5 years later, in this day and age, I think there's 50 Bitcoin ATMs just in Calgary alone. So it definitely, if you're new to the space, it's tough to kind of identify what that meant to somebody being in the space, and just how cool that was to be able to buy it right in the flesh. At the time, Canada only had one exchange, and the onboarding time was painful to say the least. I remember trying to sign up for my first CA Vertex account, and 3-4 months of waiting time, and no one calling you back, or no one emailing support, or whatever. But the good news was the banks hadn't really caught on to how awful Bitcoin is, and they were really cracking down. So once you got your verification at CA Vertex, 3-4 months later, you could then send them money, 10 to 15 days, and voila, your account was funded, you could buy Bitcoin. Trading was pretty easy. The user interface wasn't extraordinary, but you were able to buy, you were able to sell Bitcoin. And then over the course of the next year or so, there were 2 more exchanges that kind of popped up, and that was it. So in 2014, middle of 2014, there was kind of 3 prominent exchanges in Canada that allowed you to buy and sell Bitcoin. The need for Bitcoin ATMs is virtually irrelevant. There was 3, there was competition, there was no need to kind of identify a better way or whatever. But then the banking systems kind of caught on, and all of this was for naught. Funding your account became incredibly difficult, any bank that caught on to using Bitcoin or crypto, both commercially or personally, when they were halting payments, I've heard of some users claiming loss of funds and taking them months to get them back. I know I personally had a mortgage closed out with 8 days notice. I got a letter in the mail August long weekend that just said your mortgage is no longer valid. August 15th, you're good to go, and we're charging you 6.5% interest until you figure out new funding. So it's mind blowing. My lawyer just kind of looked at it and kind of said, I don't really know how they can do this. He said, but I'm 20 grand to walk into a courtroom and sue these guys, so I'm all for it, but good luck. And that's kind of where crypto users were at that time. So I think even today things are getting a little bit better, obviously with certain banks, but I know that this came out just this week. Canada's leading, biggest, highest volume exchange, regardless of the controversies and conspiracies that surround that exchange. They've kind of broken the silence about why it's been taking months for anyone to get their money out. They've had a major, one of the big 5 banks close or freeze their, a few tens of millions of dollars, which is significant. So in a world where Bitcoin is no more legal but illegal, a world where federal governments allow the banks to run monopolies, and buying and selling Bitcoin, it's still not very easy. So these poor girls here are wondering what we're going to do. The world is probably over, Bitcoin dead, and it's done. But lucky we have Bitcoin ATMs. So the benefits to Bitcoin ATMs is kind of the meat and potatoes of why anyone would use an ATM. Bitcoin ATMs, BTMs, BATMs, whatever term kind of you're using to describe them, they kind of make it easy to buy Bitcoin. At least that's what we set out to do with ours. So the accessibility to Bitcoin is absolutely crucial, but also the accessibility to use Bitcoin is crucial to the space. So these machines are programmed to take cash and then designed to follow the rules, but also give the customer the ability to legally purchase something with Canadian dollars. No need to upload your private content online, no need to send in your Equifax data, which is terrifying in itself. You're able to just go there with a mitt full of cash and buy Bitcoin, just like the good old days, just like how it should be. And the key to these machines was speed and convenience. 3 easy steps, you got your coins, and it is, and I believe it still is today, the only way to guarantee that you get your coins instantly. The second you send your money or send your cash. But not all sunshine and rainbows. ATMs quite literally have their price. Quick Google search here, you can kind of see the average transaction worldwide costs 8.93%. I'm proud to say we're a little bit lower than that, but we do charge a fee. Brokers like myself, we charge a convenience fee, kind of like when you're at the casino and you know that next pull is going to get you the jackpot, so you go to the ATM, you pay your $4 to take your 100 out. It's kind of that idea. It's a convenience fee. So the main and primary drawback to an ATM is their price. But typically the market price of Bitcoin, we mark it up by a percentage, and then very similar to a gold broker or to a currency exchange broker, we then kind of just charge that markup. The other kind of drawback to these ATMs is that you couldn't kind of do it with no pants on, and that was kind of my favorite thing to talk about when people were asking me about Bitcoin. People were kind of wondering why I got into Bitcoin. I would always say that I could spend money without pants on, and that's my dream. Pants are kind of relevant in my world, anyways. And anytime you can kind of do things from your house is kind of where you should be. Either way, kind of on a more serious note, the direct comparison and drawback to an ATM versus an online exchange is the fact that you're not secure. And by not secure, I mean you are susceptible to your own lack of knowledge, I guess. So when you're using a Bitcoin machine, even though it is a third party, it is strictly a robot that is controlled or that is programmed to send cash or send Bitcoin wherever you scan or whichever QR code you scan. There's no waiting time. There's no kind of safety measures in place, and because of that, we've seen CRA scams and now more recently Epicor scams. People calling our users and our poor customers and saying, hey, you owe us money, go to the Bitcoin machine with a CRA or we're going to come arrest you right now. And people do. And it's difficult for us to be put in that position simply because we do facilitate that transaction, not out of our own will to facilitate that transaction, but because we and our machines are programmed to facilitate buying Bitcoin. And these programmers or these scammers know that, and they take advantage of people that way. So, unfortunately, like most exchanges, you either have to have a two-factor on, or there's some kind of waiting period in order to sell Bitcoin, or in order to receive Bitcoin, or to withdraw Bitcoin, and that allows some time for common sense to kind of stick in. And with our machines, because they're so damn easy to use and so fast and so convenient, there's none of that. So this kind of draws the big question about why anyone would want to use a Bitcoin ATM. You gotta put pants on, you gotta brush your teeth before you leave the house. But there are some advantages, and exchanges, they're very, very good if you're not in a rush for your coin. So exchanges can be kind of slow. You're comfortable to the fact that banks might freeze your assets and shut your account down at any time. Now this, again, is getting better, and I don't mean to ram my woes with the bank down your throat, but it still happens today. There have been users that I've talked to that their bank accounts strictly get closed because they saw Quadriga CX on their banking statement or something like that, which is shocker. You can also probably ask your early adopter friends what happened to all their funds in Mt. Gox. You're quite literally at the mercy of the exchange. Now, I'm not here to bash the exchanges, just like I wasn't bashing ATMs previously. Exchanges oftentimes, they have a fiat deposit waiting time and crypto withdrawal wait times, which, as I mentioned, can be good, but in my opinion, if you know what you're doing, if you're in Bitcoin, then you should always be able to have your coins snap instantly. And I think instantly is kind of the key to this. So a transaction done at a machine can be done in 30 seconds or less. Now, obviously you have to drive there and park and stuff. So it's not a true 30 seconds, but the actual communication with the machine is done within 30 seconds or less, which is obviously significantly faster than any exchange. We obviously heard Mike talk about from ATB yesterday how innovative they are and how ATB is doing great things in the blockchain space, and that's true. And I was hoping he'd be here today, so I wasn't talking about him behind his back. But ATB, they have certain crypto groups that allow people to bank there, but still, even ATB today will not allow me to have a bank account at ATB. Mike and I, we've met plenty of times. We've ate dinner together. He has one of these beautiful shirts. I'm not sure if he wears it or not, but he should. But ATB, his business does not allow my business to operate. They don't facilitate that. And call it what you will, we have a beautiful AML KYC policy. Everything's all polished up, but it doesn't work. And that's just the state of crypto banking today. Personally, I think we're lucky to have Mike, and personally, I think we're lucky to have ATB kind of doing those things in this space. But you'll notice none of the big five. We're not seeing this sponsored by CBC or by CIBC or TD Canada Trust. That's because, back to Quadriga's rules right now, we're not in a crypto-friendly banking space. And then lastly, this third point is arguably the most important point, but it can be confusing, and that is that the Bitcoin itself is not as valuable as the keys that protect those coins. And that's kind of like what the real guy, what Jake was saying earlier. This is kind of a comic strip, and it kind of tries to use comedic relief. So just kind of take a second to read that. You can kind of see this guy's. I don't think he's an early Bitcoin adopter buying a Lambo after it went to the moon there, and the salesman you can kind of see in the second clip saying like, "Hey man, you gotta register your car. You need the keys," and this guy just walks away. No, look at that. I own it. I got it. It's on paper. It's mine. It's all good. And you have to wonder, what is it worth? What is a Bitcoin worth if you don't own the keys? If they're not in your possession? After you buy Bitcoin on an exchange, and an easy example here to use is Coinbase. You have, if you were to buy coins on Coinbase, you would very truthfully say that you own Bitcoin, and that you're a rock star and you got in and you're going to go pick up your Lambo color, but you don't. Bitcoin is still controlled and still owned by Coinbase. You have to request Coinbase that they release the coins, and then once your request is granted, then you get those coins released to you. So even though you bought Bitcoin, your money was sitting in Coinbase, your money was then traded for Bitcoin, you don't actually have access to those coins unless the exchange tells you that you can withdraw them. And that's an issue in comparison to maybe a Bitcoin ATM where you're able to simply cash in, Bitcoin out, snap instantly, 30 seconds or less. And that's kind of the benefit of a Bitcoin ATM over an exchange. Both, of course, have their benefits and have their negatives. But in this day and age, you absolutely cannot stress enough how important it is to hold your own keys. And holding Bitcoin personally is always the best way to do so. This here kind of shows the ramp up of how Bitcoin ATMs have come into the market. So obviously, pretty similar to a Bitcoin chart. If you think about it, Bitcoin ATMs are coming into the market at Godspeed, and it's exciting to see it. It makes the future look very, very exciting. With machines popping up all over the world, it allows us to kind of explore the countless possibilities. And I've kind of highlighted a few of those today, but real-world applications already happening, like remittance, are made better. And then we're gonna try and go through a scenario where ID verifications or bill payments might be possible through one of these machines and in cash. So we have our 2020 Bitcoin ATM here, and we're going to talk kind of first about ID. So first things to assume first, obviously these are scenarios. We have to assume that these machines are seen as legitimate, both federally and in the banking system and what have you. But we also have to assume that institutions like the banks are comfortable with the blockchain. And that's kind of, I think that's where we're going, but it's important to assume that right now. So if we take these two assumptions in the real world, then we could perform ID checks at a Bitcoin ATM. Now, if an application was in place through an API, kind of like Jumio, which is kind of like an identifying application online, there's no reason that anyone couldn't go to any Bitcoin ATM in the world to do an ID check, whether it be for a mortgage or for any KYC kind of possibilities or whatever. The ATM could request a key given to the user by the institution looking to verify ID. Maybe a voting agency, maybe a bank, and then the user would simply scan their key that given to them from the institution, scan their ID, check done. They would get a request back to the institution saying, "Yep, this person is who they say they are. Feel free to move forward with the transaction that you're going to perform." So this kind of application would be obviously good if you're traveling, you're looking to buy a house, you're out of town, you just don't want to go to the bank. You just don't want to go sit in line and wait and have stale coffee and then have small talk about your dog that you just got for 20 minutes before doing a 30-second ID check. This is possible. And then next kind of an obvious one is bills payment. Or bill payments, and this is kind of using the scenario here is Bills. Bills is a startup out of Eastern Canada, which is awesome. And the guy running it, Francis, his integration into ATMs is absolutely crucial. It's a way to pay your bill. Right now, you can't pay your EPCOR bill in cash. You can't pay a CRA bill, a tax bill with cash or Bitcoin, contrary to what the scammers mentioned earlier might want you to think. But this kind of offers you a way to offer bill payments anywhere in the world. So the idea that you don't have to be in town or have a bank account to pay your bills is something exciting, something that a Bitcoin ATM could offer. Simply, so what you would do is obviously bills have to be set up on a screen. You'd have to kind of predetermine that account on the bill side of things, and then simply walk up to an ATM, the bills application, kind of moving through it, selecting bills, and then selecting the account that you wanted to pay, boom, 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 insert cash, and voila. On the back end, what would happen is you would essentially just bought Bitcoin, sent the Bitcoin to Bills, Bills then sends that Bitcoin and pays your bill for you. So all that stuff kind of happens in the back end, but it would happen snap instantly at the Bitcoin ATM. And if you do that with any denomination too, which would be super exciting. So if you're traveling in Europe and you got to pay your EPCOR bill, or you got to pay your Shaw bill, or your TELUS bill, or your phone bill, then you'd be able to go to any Bitcoin ATM, pay in any denomination, and have that Bitcoin sent. It kind of just removes the borders and removes the inability to do things that we have right now. And then kind of more as an improvement, what I hinted at earlier, would be something like remittance. So currently, remittance in 2014 in the US was $102 million. And that's obviously all through foreign workers, or for the majority part, through foreign workers. These foreign workers come here and they work their asses off to support their family back home, and then they go to Western Union and they get charged astronomical amounts of money to send their money back home, on top of having to wait. So, obviously we have to make a couple assumptions here that there's a giant network of these Bitcoin ATMs, which is growing every day and which is exciting. But that would allow somebody essentially to go to one of these machines, open up a remittance account, scan their partners or send their partner a notification, insert cash, and then on the other end, virtually instantly, that cash to be withdrawn in any country. Basically, again, kind of on the back end, it would be simply the machine sending Bitcoin from one machine to the other, which would be designated in the back end. But these users would be able to purchase Bitcoin and send to their loved ones back home, and then have that ability to send money back home again in their currency. And obviously, there's still fees, but significantly less and less waiting time than what Western Union would be. So obviously, just a couple of different ideas of what these ATMs can kind of come to. Obviously, they're going to continue to grow and expand and evolve. But these ATMs, they really kind of make the space a lot easier to navigate, and kind of always looking for real world applications of where they could be. And that's kind of everything for today.
We're going to do some quick questions here. Maybe we'll get the screen up. I've got questions for Adam, given that we worked together and everything. So, yeah, I've got plenty to ask. So I don't know if there's anybody back there that can...
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just have a question because you wrote my home country, Egypt. I never thought to come to a Bitcoin and Egypt will rank second. Guess the last graph. Can you guess the last graph?
Oh, the graph, yeah.
Yeah, I love Egypt, sir. I'm from Egypt, so
oh, nice.
I love it, sir. Okay. So the question.
There you go. I can't see.
It's the orange. It's a 14,000.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be a dollar value, but
no, it has down there. It's actually in the pie chart. It's 14,000. 14 million or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's more than $14,000, but I don't know what the number exactly represents.
So the question to you is, these all are, we call it non-North American countries, or like non-G8, G20 countries. So what is the commonality of this process to make a country like Egypt make 14,251,000 or whatever millions is? Second, and we cannot do this here. Like, where are the barriers?
I'm not sure
So barriers would be, I guess, just having enough Bitcoin ATMs in Egypt. The idea would be that it would be kind of a giant decentralized network of these Bitcoin machines, that a user here in North America would be able to go to any Bitcoin ATM in North America, insert $500 or $1,000 or whatever, and then through a remittance program that would be written, would then go and give the end user a notification, which they would go to a different Bitcoin machine in Egypt, for example, scan that user notification, and then offer, and then cash would kind of come out of the machine, like Egyptian cash.
Yeah, the other thing you can think about, because there are obviously countries where this kind of stuff is not as accessible, but that being said, you look at a country like perhaps Venezuela. Well, there's a peer-to-peer marketplace. So there's people in the street that recognize the value of the currency and what it can do above and beyond what their current currency is, and there's a market for that. Yeah, and the very real realization that people are coming to is the fact that in the countries that actually have less accessibility, there's a premium. They're willing to pay more for it because it's more difficult to get. So technically, in sending Bitcoin home to Egypt, you're actually getting more bang for your buck, because if they know where to sell it, they're getting a massive premium over what you've already paid for it. At one point in South Korea, what was the premium? It was double the price in South Korea at one point, just because it was so difficult to get. You see premiums in places like Venezuela. You see premiums in India as well. That was, I believe, the number one place. Greece, wherever there's financial friction and issues with the currency, there's huge premiums on Bitcoin because it's more, and it's actually not a premium on Bitcoin. It's a lack of value with the currency in the country.
So guaranteed saving. We call it guaranteed saving or guaranteed equity.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So yeah, I have a question for you. Is there anybody back there that can lift the screen? If not, I'll just keep going. The chair is so nice, but the light. Okay, so what are, obviously banking is a major pain point for you. Dealing with cash is difficult. You know, I know this, you know this. We both worked in this kind of space for a few years now, and I got to see it firsthand with you, and like, you know, it was always jumping through hoops trying to make it work. Do you think that the way the banks are handling this right now, what is their impact? Are they just slowing things down? Are they causing more friction are they causing more friction than is needed? And what will be the impact of how they're handling this? Are they just pushing people further away into the hands of those that have pioneered cryptocurrency? Or can they actually slow this to the point where it stops?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a great question. So the banks right now, what they're doing is they're essentially, whenever they block a crypto transaction, it's either out of fear or out of knowing that this is in direct competition with them. So I think that you know, they're obviously they're private entities and they can choose to do business with whoever they want. Maybe the real or a different question we could ask is why the governments have allowed the banks to own that monopoly. We rely on and we absolutely need the bank. You cannot buy a house in paper cash. You can't buy a car in cash. I went to go try and buy a rally car in cash, and it was like, we're gonna give it to the cops for 10 days. We gotta get it all. It's mind blowing how cashless our society is. And lots of it's for convenience, and everyone says security, but I mean, it's no different. Like, we're all wearing thousands of dollars in clothing and our phones and everything. It's got nothing to do with security. It's just about a culture shift. So the fact that the governments have allowed the banks to kind of own that, and that we're so reliant on the banks, but yet they can pick and choose who we do business or who they do business with is kind of an issue. But in terms of the bank standpoint, I think the first bank to kind of catch on and to realize that cash is not evil, and that while it is used and it will always be used for negative things, it's not necessarily the end-all be-all of all bad things. And I think that once a bank kind of jumps aboard and says any and all crypto transactions are good to go, that it's a no-brainer that there's a flock there. But I think inevitably the banks kind of understand what's coming, and yeah, I think absolutely they're trying to slow things down.
And I guess it's a little bit of blaming the medium for the crime, right? You're saying that because this money can be used for something bad, the money is bad. It's akin to saying that the US dollar is terrible because somebody was robbing a bank.
Right, exactly. Like, you know, look at the internet, which is and will always be the number one source for horrific child pornography and human trafficking, and we're on the internet right now. We're doing it. You know, everybody uses the internet hundreds of millions of times every single day. But the internet is simply a medium to do those things, not the bad thing itself. So I think speaking to that point as well, it's not.
Yeah, and in a lot of these instances, you just see the most current iteration of the technology get blamed. Like right now. Something bad happens, and perhaps the internet and electricity and I don't know, the internal combustion engine and Bitcoin were utilized in the committing of that crime. Guess which one is going to be mentioned the most currently? So I think it's a little bit of that. I think maybe as other technologies come up, the fear and all of that will be shifted. But to speak to some of that as far as crime goes, you were talking about the CRA scams. I've seen a lot of that in some of my work as well. And it's unfortunate. I recognize that as a business, it's essentially like somebody coming in to a precious metals dealer and buying a brick of gold and then going out onto the street and handing it to a stranger and then trying to go back into the gold dealer and get their money back because they were scammed. the asset is already gone, and that's part of the thing that people don't understand when they do these, because it's a new technology. So what do you think can be done, and what kind of solutions can be done to help prevent things like these, and what have you seen in your experience that you think might mitigate the risk of this kind of stuff happening more often?
Yeah, totally. So that's been kind of a huge talking point in our company, and how do we mitigate that, and how do we eliminate that? So what we've done right now is there's little buttons on our machines that ask. So there's kind of like, our machines are set up with just kind of two buttons. I want cash, or I want Bitcoin. And then underneath those, there's a big button that says, were you contacted by the CRA? And if you click that, a warning comes up and says, it's a scam, blah, 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 and the machine is disabled for 1 minute. And the reason we've done that is because I've seen it on CCTV cams, and I've seen it, and I've heard accounts about it at the, some of the court cases that we've had to deal with because of this. People will sit there on the phone with these scammers, and the scammer will literally say, oh, did I say 2,000? I actually meant 3,000, so you better go get more money and put it in. And it's I don't mean to be desensitive or insensitive here, but it's wildly frustrating that you think the CRA would just snap it and ask for 50% more, or that they would say, if you don't pay today, you're going to jail tonight. Like, the government does not move that fast. They would say, like, yeah, we'll come get you in like 5 years and at your previous address. Like, they don't know, the government can't work that fast. So it's super frustrating from that standpoint. But it's, you feel bad. Like just this past week, we were in court. The police seized the funds in December, so here we are 10 months later, finally going through the process after 3 different court dates and costs and time. And I was heartbroken for this lady that sat there, and she lost over $7,000. And I'm sitting there arguing why I deserve to get that money back, and she's sitting there arguing why she deserves to get money back. And the point that you made of the asset is gone. It doesn't. It's the equivalent of walking into Best Buy or a gold shop, getting a TV, mailing that TV, and then going to Best Buy and saying, hey, I gave this to the wrong person, can I have my money back? Like, it doesn't work like that in the real world. But because of the new technology, because they didn't actually see or physically hand anybody anything other than me or our machines, the cash, they just think that we're to blame. And it's been, like, those CRA notices have been hindrance to the business, not because we're not taking illegitimate funds anymore, but because people look at that and think, oh, Bitcoin bad, scam, not going to use it. And it's been tough.
It's and part of the issue, I think, is education. Right now, people look at a Bitcoin ATM, and a lot of these people, what they're doing is they're contacting individuals. They're saying, listen, you owe back taxes, you're going to go to jail, or whatever, or a multitude of other things. They tend to prey on people that may not be technologically savvy. Maybe they're older, maybe they're new to Canada and they don't understand how taxes work, and they don't know how advanced or not advanced it is. It's not advanced, just a hint. But you don't know. Maybe if you just moved here and somebody said, hey, you didn't pay enough taxes, you're going to jail immediately, unless you pay us quickly. And the quickest way to do that is to go to a machine, scan this code we've given you, and insert cash. As a new person to the country, maybe that doesn't sound very outlandish. Or maybe as an older individual, maybe that doesn't sound outlandish. Or maybe you just get so scared by the threats that you're hearing, and they hone in on something that makes you vulnerable, makes you not think, and they don't give you that moment to step away from the phone, because they keep you on the phone. You can get funneled into that, not realize what you're doing, and by the time all is said and done and you hang up the phone, it's already too late. It's already gone. So I think the real solution here is educating people and making people realize, because if you went to that ATM and you knew that, hey, as soon as I press this button, what I've essentially done is given money that is irreversible to an individual that I've only ever spoken to on the phone. As soon as people realize it's the equivalent of mailing a wad of cash to a P.O. box that you've never heard of, then it'll start to clue in. But people don't know how the technology works yet, and so there's no comparison to what they're actually doing.
I think part of that too is as a society we have been groomed to not be our own makers. And what I mean by that is anything we do in this world is through a centralized body and can be reversed. If you screw up on an e-transfer, maybe that's a bad example, but if you screw up on any banking transaction, you can call the bank, within a certain period of time and have them reverse that. If you book the wrong flight on the wrong day, you can call them and have them reverse that. But we've been trained to not believe things are done, and that things are done. But maybe with the exception of text messages. I know I've sent a few text messages. That can't come back. The internet never dies. So when these people that aren't technologically savvy or that aren't new to Canada, they've been groomed and they've been conditioned to think, oh, well, that's fine. Somebody can look after this for me. I lost my, even back to just Bitcoin as a whole. Like, I lost my password or I lost my private key. Can you give it back to me? It's like, well, no, I didn't give you that private key. You made it, and then if you don't have it, then it's gone. Like your password, your keys, your seed, everything is so important to keep, and there's no one person that should be able to give that back to you, because if they can give it back to you, it means they can take it from you in the first place, and that's against everything that is Bitcoin.
I guess to kind of wrap this, I want to turn back to the positives that are achieved here, because obviously we've been talking about implications of people that are victimized by not understanding the technology yet, and we talk a lot about reversibility, but a lot of that stuff comes at a cost, and it may not be an immediately evident cost, but because your bank can reverse a fraudulent transaction, that comes at a general cost to everyone. So when somebody gets scammed and somebody's able to take money out of your bank account and they get their hands on the actual cash, the cash is irreversible, that's been taken out, and they're able to spend and buy goods and services with your money. Well, when the bank refunds you your money, that in essence is diluting the rest of everybody else's money. That money is coming from somewhere, and it's actually being kind of created into existence, and you're allowing these entities to create money that didn't exist before, whether it be a central bank just printing money, or whether it be a regular corporate bank lending it into existence. Your reliance on these other entities gives them certain permissions, and the permissions that you've given them, you don't see those fees right away most of the time. You see it over time. You see it when you go to buy groceries, and last year your card was just a little bit more full with the same amount of money. So you get impacted. You get impacted when you go for dinner and you're like, oh wow, that's more expensive than I thought it was going to be. And you see those things over time, and it's a gradual whittling away of your purchasing power and your financial sovereignty. And I think that's what you're trying to get at here, and that's what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, big time. I mean, Bitcoin, obviously, kind of what sparked my interest about it was the fact that there's no central body that can or cannot tell you what to do. You live by your own rules, and I think that ultimate accessibility to Bitcoin is kind of where the world thrives, and where this cryptocurrency can really take off. The idea that we have full control over our finances means, no reliance on 3 p.m. closures on Saturdays, and not having to wait in lines, or I don't know how many times I've tried to play, I don't know about you guys, but I can rack up a pretty good credit card bill, and you literally cannot pay the bill off in one chunk. You have to do it over a 24-hour period. It's like, how does that work that I can't take out more than $1,000 as an ATM or like at a traditional cash ATM? Why is it that we have all these limits and all these stops in our system? And they say it's for our protection, but I think personally it's just guarding us down. It's making us more reliant on them.
So I guess I'll just close it out here. My name is Ben, and I am an uncle. So to quote Uncle Ben, I would say that with great power comes great responsibility. So yes. So I will close it out here. Adam, thank you so much for being here. Let's give him a big round of applause for coming. And we'll have another presentation up shortly. Grab a drink, grab a sip of water, and we'll be right back.